Hi, my name is Hannah, and I'm 30 years old. I own and run a fancy steakhouse. Both of my parents were steak chefs, so I grew up watching them cook amazing steaks that always made people happy. Inspired by them, I decided to follow in their footsteps. After years of hard work, I finally became a steakhouse chef, and 3 years ago, I even opened my own steakhouse. It's a great place, not just because of the steaks and wine, but also the atmosphere. Thanks to the skills my parents taught me, like how to cut and cook the meat, our restaurant is really popular. We usually have a long line of people waiting to get in, and it feels so good to see our customers smiling and enjoying their meals. But lately, something's been bothering me. One day, while I was busy cooking in our crowded restaurant, my friend Kimberly, who also works here, pointed out a group of people. It was my mother-in-law, Amanda, along with my husband Kevin's brother and sister. They were making a mess and acting like they knew everything about food. This wasn't the first time they'd been here. But the worst part? After they finished eating, they tried to leave without paying. Matthew, another friend from culinary school who works with me and is also Kimberly's brother, confronted them. My mother-in-law had the nerve to say they don't need to pay because the restaurant belongs to her son's wife. The argument got heated, and in the end, my in-laws left without paying, right in front of other customers. This has been a huge problem for me. My mother-in-law thinks she and her family can eat for free just because I'm married to her son. They've even left without paying before, and now customers are starting to notice. Since that incident, our customer traffic has dropped, and I'm worried about the future of the restaurant I've worked so hard to build. After 2 months of stressing over this, my mother-in-law called me again, asking to reserve the entire restaurant for 20 people. She didn't even let me respond before hanging up. I'm at my wit's end with this situation, and it's making things worse for my business. But I couldn't just ignore a reservation, so I briefed Matthew, Kimberly, and the rest of the staff about the situation. We prepared for the big reservation, and I even contacted someone for help. That night, my mother-in-law showed up at the restaurant with not just my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, but also 17 other relatives. As we served them the meal, including steaks, we kept a close eye on my mother-in-law. At one point, one of the relatives nervously asked her if it was okay to eat at such a fancy place. "Of course, darling. We're family, so it's all you can eat," my mother-in-law replied, completely ignoring my concerns. She even called out to me in the kitchen, saying they didn't need to worry about paying. "If I was going to pay, I'd go to a place with a real chef," she added, encouraging the others to dig in. My uneasy feeling grew stronger. Up until now, I had been hosting them out of respect because they were my husband's family. But causing a scene, offering no apology, and then saying they'd go somewhere else if they had to pay for 20 people. Unbelievable. An hour later, just as I expected, my mother-in-law, now full, said, "I'm stuffed. Let's head back," and tried to leave without paying, laughing with her relatives. I couldn't let this slide. Matthew, Kimberly, and I blocked their path. "Wait a minute, if you're leaving after eating, you need to pay the bill," I said firmly, glaring at her. She just smiled and brushed it off. "What are you talking about? We're family." "And your point is, do you think that's some magic phrase? Normally, you pay for what you eat no matter where you are," I replied. "Well, yes, normally, but think about it. When we come to your house and you feed us, we don't pay, right?" she retorted. "That's true, but where do you think you are now? This isn't a friend or family's home. It's a legitimate restaurant," I continued, holding back my anger. "So what? Whether it's a shop or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's my daughter-in-law's place. Charging money just because the location is different makes no sense," she said, completely dismissing my point. Seeing that she had no intention of changing her attitude, and with everyone, including Matthew, Kimberly, and the other staff members, getting increasingly angry, I decided it was time to reveal the truth I had been hiding. "Amanda, clearly you're not listening. Do you know that right now, I'm single?" I said. My mother-in-law's laughter stopped and her face went blank. My brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the other relatives were equally stunned. A few seconds later, my mother-in-law burst out laughing again. "What are you even talking about? There's no way Kevin would divorce you without telling me." "It's no lie. We are really divorcing, which means you and I are no longer part of the same family," I explained. "Huh? Then why didn't Kevin say anything until now?" she asked, still in disbelief. "Exactly. Kevin, my now ex-husband, hadn't told you about the divorce. Earlier during dinner, you were complaining about not hearing from him. Well, Kevin didn't want to contact you because you two don't get along. He even told me not to say anything when we were divorcing. He said he'd tell you when the time was right. At this, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the other relatives were visibly disturbed. That's when Matthew took the opportunity to speak up. That said, your bill comes to $3,000 for all 20 of you. At the mention of $3,000, my mother-in-law and the others were stunned. A wave of shock spread among them. What? There's no way we can pay that on the spot. Why is it $3,000 for a steak dinner that we could have had at home? The nerve. If anyone should stop, it's you. Plus, our steaks aren't the kind you eat at home. We source the meat every morning and maintain it at the right temperature. $3,000 for that is fair, I replied. My mother-in-law tried to laugh it off with a malicious smile, but her relatives gave her awkward glances. Growing more frustrated, Matthew, followed by Kimberly, finally spoke up. As the manager said, we are a steakhouse. We don't offer all-you-can-eat or drink specials, and our prices per item aren't cheap. Right? If you're going to stuff your face like that, you need to pay for it. It's clear the bill would come to $3,000. Hearing this, the relatives quickly turned on my mother-in-law, confronting her with frustration. What's going on? You told us you'd settled everything with the manager, so we didn't need to bring any money, one grumbled, echoing the other's complaints. Seeing their angry faces, my mother-in-law panicked and suddenly lashed out at me. How dare you embarrass me in front of everyone? Should I sue you for defamation? Be my guest, I replied calmly, but before you do, we'll report you for dining and dashing. We'll also discuss your past behavior as fraudulent. What did you just say? She snapped back, confused and increasingly hostile. Her relatives tried to calm her down, but she broke free and grew more aggressive, demanding, "What have you done to Kevin? There must be a reason he wants a divorce. Why are you assuming I'm at fault? Kevin is perfect, he's good at his job and handles household chores. I can't forgive this. You're paying the bill as alimony." Her outrageous claim left everyone, including the staff, stunned. What nonsense is this woman spouting? Matthew and Kimberly muttered, embarrassed for her. Sensing that she wouldn't back down, I decided to lay it all out. I didn't say anything before, but the reason for the divorce is Kevin's infidelity and abusive behavior. My words hit like a lightning bolt. My mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the other relatives were all shocked as I revealed the truth. Kevin, no, my ex-husband, didn't just neglect his job. He stole money from me, money I had saved before our marriage, and spent it partying with multiple women and drinking heavily. He was also emotionally abusive and started accumulating debt without my knowledge. Divorce was my only option. Wait, how much debt are we talking about? One of the relatives asked. Adding everything up, including loans from friends and my own parents, it's about $40,000. My mother-in-law's face went pale. I initially let you all slide with the dining and dashing, thinking it was a one-time thing, but after the fiasco 2 months ago, I can't ignore it anymore. Plus, we booked the entire restaurant today, so if you don't pay, we're in the red. The relatives, now furious, began demanding that my mother-in-law repay them the money they had lent her over the years. My mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law were visibly shocked and confused when suddenly the restaurant door burst open. A man walked in, and my mother-in-law exclaimed, "Owen." It was my father-in-law, Owen, a physical education lecturer at a university in the city. He surveyed the scene, sighed deeply, and then bowed his head to me. "Hannah, it's been a while. I'm really sorry for the mess my foolish wife has caused." "No, Owen, I should apologize for calling you in the middle of your busy day," I responded. That's right. I had reached out to my father-in-law after hearing about my mother-in-law's troubling actions, including reserving the entire restaurant. He promised to come and talk to her as soon as he could. "What are you doing here?" my mother-in-law asked, shocked. "Amanda, show some respect. Even if she's an ex, Hannah has had to put up with our idiotic son," Owen said firmly. "But you told me you'd be late because of work." "Yes, but Hannah called me earlier. I was teaching at the university, so I couldn't leave immediately." He sighed again. "I'm really sorry for dragging you into this, Hannah." "There's no need for you to apologize, Hannah," my father-in-law said as he walked in. "I heard everything while standing at the entrance, so I know the whole situation." He then turned to my mother-in-law. his face stern. Amanda, what's going on? You've been dining and dashing repeatedly, and you almost caused a scene last time. No, you've got it wrong, my mother-in-law stammered. I only have $60 on me right now. $60? Are you kidding me, Amanda? You come to a high-end restaurant and that's all you bring? You can't even pay for a single meal. My father-in-law's anger erupted, and my mother-in-law trembled. After taking a deep breath to calm down, he continued, I heard everything at the entrance. It's not just Kevin who's been acting recklessly. You have too, Amanda. No, it's not like that. The real problem is Hannah. She knew about the divorce and didn't say anything. Enough excuses. He cut her off. Kevin silenced her, and he's the root cause of all this. My father-in-law's booming voice made everyone, including the relatives, the waitstaff, and even Matthew and Kimberly, freeze. Realizing the tension, he cleared his throat and bowed deeply to us. I apologize for the scene and for my foolish wife. I'll cover the bill and the debts my relatives mentioned. Please forgive us. What? You're doing what? My mother-in-law gasped. Ignoring her, my father-in-law turned to me. And regarding the alimony for Kevin's divorce, I'd like to discuss it later. I also bear responsibility for my son's actions. There's no need, I replied. Kevin's existing debts are already taken as alimony, so please don't worry. He bowed deeply again and then turned to my mother-in-law. I said I would cover the costs for now, but you will pay it back later with your own earnings. My mother-in-law, along with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, was utterly shocked. My father-in-law declared that since they had been dining and dashing with her, they were equally guilty. He cut ties with all of them that day. Later, my father-in-law paid the $3,000 for that night's meal, $14,000 for past dining and dashing, and around $10,000 for my mother-in-law's debts to relatives, a total of $27,000. It turned out that some of her debts were due to dining and dashing at my restaurant, but she had also been financially supporting a younger man. When my father-in-law discovered this, he was beyond furious, and their marriage ended in divorce. He also cut ties with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. After being ousted, my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law moved into a cheap apartment in the city. They're now juggling part-time jobs to pay off their debts, working from dawn till dusk. All of them are struggling. My mother-in-law, who had always been a housewife, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who relied solely on my father-in-law's income despite having college degrees, are all finding it hard to adapt to their first jobs. They're getting yelled at by younger bosses and colleagues almost every day. On the flip side, things are looking up for me. Friends and relatives who used to come with my mother-in-law are now visiting on their own. And guess what? They're actually paying for their meals. They're thrilled with the quality of the food and service. So in a way, I have to thank my mother-in-law for this one silver lining. The smiles of these satisfied customers keep me, Matthew, Kimberly, and the rest of the staff going strong.